And good afternoon, my producer Susan. How are you all recovered from Penn State's loss Saturday night?
Yeah, tough loss in double overtime.
And the game ended what, just before midnight?
Yep, just before midnight.
Wow, must must be tough, staying up till midnight to watch them lose in double overtime.
Yep.
All right, when's the next game? They're out of town.
We're out of town this weekend, and then next weekend's homecoming.
Homecoming. Okay, and who are they playing in homecoming?
Northwestern.
Northwestern. All right, well, good, and hopefully they'll win that game. All right, hey, we're getting a late start tonight. It's Tuesday night. We'll publish this on Wednesday. But being that it's Tuesday, today is September 30th. Um, by the way, today is the uh, last day before the government shuts down. And if they don't pass the continuing resolution in the next 6 hours, the government will shut down at midnight tonight. And all essential things, military and FAA and all the rest that will continue. Social Security checks will go out, but all non-essential departments will be furloughed. And we'll talk more about that later on. Um, This week, our quote of the week, I don't, you probably never heard of Dr. William Bennett. He was Secretary of Education under George Bush, but he has our quote. It's a great quote from him. It's a long quote on why he believes Charlie Kirk was murdered and what's happening to the art of civil discourse and political debate in this country. And our stupidest thing I've heard all week, we'll tell you about where a group of PETA activists held a mock funeral and why, and we'll tell you who the funeral was for. We'll tell you about it. This almost made the list, the stupidest thing I've heard all week. We'll tell you about a woman who was getting paid by the U.S. government for theoretically working three full-time jobs at the same time, sometimes billing the government for as much as 26 hours worked in a single day, and how she was able to get away with it for more than a year. Wouldn't you like to have that gig? You
Yeah.
get paid for doing three jobs at the
hmm
same time. Uh, as I just mentioned, we'll tell you what might shut down the government tonight at midnight, and what has to happen to prevent it, and what will happen if it does get shut down. We're going to one more time going to revisit Charlie Kirk. For those who continue to insist that Charlie Kirk was a bigot who hated homosexual and transgender people, we'll play a clip of Charlie Kirk providing some really compassionate counseling to a young transgender woman. It's one of the most compassionate things I've ever heard. Nothing you most likely would have heard about two mass shootings that took place in this country this past Sunday. You heard about the one in up in Michigan with the Mormon church, and you probably
Yes.
heard about the guy that shot up the Waterside Bar in North Carolina.
Yes.
Well, there was a third one that you didn't hear about, and we'll tell you what the third one was, and we'll ask the question, why did the news media tell you about the third one? In another story you haven't heard about on the evening news, we'll play another clip from Bill Maher, who's becoming, I think, a closet conservative, explaining the long-running war on Christianity that's been going on in Nigeria for years. And we'll tell you which school system hired an illegal alien with a standing deportation order and a prior criminal record as their superintendent of schools.
Oh, I heard about this one.
Yeah, I think they need to if they did a background check, I think they need to get their money back. Um, we'll tell you how police departments are deploying drones that can read the license plates of hundreds of cars every minute and what that means for the effectiveness of law enforcement operations. And we all know how important lithium is, right? For lithium ion batteries and electric cars, electric vehicles, right?
Yes. Something we
Well,
don't have enough of in this country.
and we have very little of it in this country, and up until now, China has had a stranglehold on the
Mhm.
vast deposits. Well, we'll tell you which country has just discovered 43 million tons of lithium ore in their country. 43 million tons.
Wow.
Now, time permitting, we'll tell you which city is suing which gun manufacturer and why. And our taxpayer relief shot segment this week comes to us from Chicago, where a man violating a restraining order is shot and killed by the woman whose home he was trying to break into. Where have we heard that story before, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Protection from abuse is only a piece of paper.
Right. Yeah. All right.
Restraining order is only a piece
Re
of paper in this case.
restraining order is only a piece of paper. Right. All right. So here's our quote of the week from Dr. William J. Bennett, who was Secretary of Education under George Bush. And he quotes G.K. Chesterton, the author and philosopher. Now, Chesterton's been dead for 50 years. But he starts off with a thesis and then he quotes Chesterton as the backup for his thesis. So the first words you're going to hear are his, and then he quotes Chesterton. So here's his quote. He said, "Let me advance an unconventional thesis. Charlie Kirk died because we have forgotten how to hate properly." Think about that. We have forgotten how to hate properly. And then he goes on to say, G.K. Chesterton observed that the true soldier fights not because he hates what is in front of him, but because he loves what is behind him or next to him. We fight not for hatred of our enemies, but for the love of our fellow soldiers and the ideals of our country. We have inverted this wisdom. We teach our young people to hate their opponents rather than love their own principles. We have made politics a blood sport precisely because we have drained it of its transcendent meaning. When you believe in nothing greater than your own righteousness, the only thing left is to destroy those who challenge your certainty. Was that kind of a deep thought?
Yeah. Yeah, I saw an interesting interview this weekend on 60 Minutes with I believe his name is Governor Cox. He's the governor of Utah. And he's a Republican governor, but he's really although he is a bit conservative on his views, the Republicans don't really care for him.
Hmm.
And of course the Democrats don't like him either. But the whole point of his interview was we've forgotten how to respectfully disagree with each other.
Right, and that's the whole point. He said,
Yeah.
and here's I'll read the last sentence of his, and this is Bennett saying this. We have made politics into a blood sport
Hmm.
precisely because we have drained it of its transcendent meaning. When you believe in nothing greater than your own righteousness, the only thing left is to destroy those who challenge your certainty.
Hmm.
So it's a long quote, but I think it's a great
Yeah.
quote. And again, he
But it
said, yeah, go ahead.
and I can't remember the woman's name, but she's the governor of can't remember if she's the governor of Arizona or the governor of New Mexico. So a border governor, and she's a Democrat, and how these two people, these two governors, don't see eye to eye, but how they can respectfully, argue with each other and come to this common ground. I think everybody should watch this interview that was on last night.
But I taped it. I haven't seen it yet, but I'll tape
Yeah,
it.
it was a good interview.
All right.
But it's basically about this respectful agreeing to disagree or this respectful debate is what it comes down to.
Yep. Respectful debate. Again, don't hate, you know, you may, again, fight for your principles. You don't have to hate your opponent. All right. You want to go into the stupidest thing I've heard all week?
What's the stupidest thing you heard this week?
Well, you really have to watch this clip. It's a bunch of PETA activists inside a Trader Joe's supermarket in front of the poultry counter, and they're holding a mock funeral for the dead chickens.
Oh,
And
geez.
and here's the clip. The audio's a little tough to hear, but here they are, and they're holding up these signs of all the dead chickens, and there's about six of them in the front of the poultry counter. And here we go. And they've got.
Because my that chicken bodies are here behind us. Chicken
And by the way, they're putting black cloths and lilies on the draped over the poultry counter.
are no one else is.
So what do you think?
Yeah.
Does
I,
that
I,
does
I,
that meet the
I
bar
actually
for the stupidest?
couldn't quite hear it that well, but I can put the link on the website.
Yeah, put the link, and you got to see they're doing like that. They got the smoking pot. They got a guy like a what do you call the from the like a monk, a Tibetan monk, you know. But yeah, and they've got the visuals. You have to see the visual. They're holding up the signs. They're putting the lilies on. They have the black cloths draped over the chickens, and they got the Tibetan monk, with the smoke and bowing his head. So that was the stupidest thing I've heard all week. Do you think that qualifies? Mock.
Yeah, for
Okay.
sure.
All right. So let's talk about the pending government shutdown. Um, again, the federal budget expires tonight, so without another budget, the government can't spend any money if you don't have an approved budget.
Mhm.
Um, so since there's not time to get the whole $7 trillion budget uh, debated and passed, last week the Republicans in the House said, "Look, we need a couple more weeks. We know we can't get this done in 48 hours, so we're going to pass a continuing resolution where we will agree to continue spending under the old Biden budget that expires at midnight tonight. No cuts, no reductions. We'll continue to fund everything as President Biden had funded it, and we'll keep doing that for 7 more weeks, which will give us time to, negotiate this massive $7 trillion budget for 2026. And that bill is sitting in the U.S. Senate waiting to be voted on. And the Republicans they were prepared to vote on it yesterday. And they're still prepared to vote on it right now. And if the Republicans get to vote on it, it'll pass. And 15 minutes later, Trump will sign it and the government will continue. But the Democrats are saying, no, we're going to block that bill from coming up for a vote with a filibuster. You know what a filibuster is, right? You need 60 votes to end debate. It's called cloture.
Yeah.
And since the Republicans only have 53 votes in the Senate, you need at least seven Democrats to agree, yeah, we've had enough debate. Let's vote. Well, the Democrats are saying, no, we're going to refuse to end debate, which is a filibuster, which means nobody can vote on this bill. And if the bill doesn't get voted on, the government loses its ability to spend money as of midnight tonight. Now, again, there are no cuts in this continuing resolution. The continuing resolution says we'll continue to spend what we were spending tomorrow as the same thing we were spending yesterday. We're not cutting anything, but it gives us 7 weeks to hammer out a budget for next year. Democrats, nope, we want it now. We want to negotiate this whole thing now. We're going to hold the country hostage until we get what we want, which and their demands, by the way, include reversing a lot of things that got passed in the one big beautiful bill that got signed into law. So they're trying to undo what got passed in the Trump tax plan that was signed into law. So it's a power play. If the government gets shut down tonight, it'll be on the Democrats. Now, the FAA will continue to operate, the U.S. military continue to operate, the U.S. Post Office will continue to operate, Social Security checks will go out, Medicare, payments to doctors will continue to go out, Medicaid will go out. It's only things like Department of Education, U.S. Department of Agriculture, National Parks Department, the FDA, those people are going to go home. But all the essential, the FBI will continue to work. So do you have any questions on what will and won't happen if the
Yeah, I
government?
think I've also heard in past years like the, parks departments and those will get shut down.
Yep.
I've had a couple of thoughts about, and I think a lot of people agree with me. One, these hidden bill agendas need to stop. You need to have a bill that's just the bill and on that subject matter. And the other one is them taking vacations and breaks. You stay until the job is done.
Yep. Yep.
Nobody
Well,
else
again,
gets to go on vacation without doing their
right.
job. That should apply to the government too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, anyway, so that's happened is most likely going to happen tonight. The Democrats are not going to budge. They won't let the continuing resolution get voted on. And because of their refusal to let the bill get voted on, the government will technically run out of money tonight, and all but essential government services will cease until this gets. Now, by the way, I feel sorry for some of our soldiers because even though they'll be ordered to continue to do their job as soldiers, they may miss a paycheck. If this goes on for more than 2 weeks, they'll miss a paycheck. Now, they'll eventually get the paycheck, but I don't know how much of a strain missing a paycheck would be on some of those
I
military
think, and
people.
those are the people that do live paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
Because
So,
they're working middle class, and that those are the people who are living paycheck to paycheck.
yep. So I feel sorry for them, but again, it's all on the Democrats. They could have just said, okay, let's spend the next 7 weeks hammering out an actual budget.
And I
Um,
think, and all the people that are holding up the bill, they should. This first of all, if they miss a paycheck, it's probably not going to affect them because they're all making over six figures. They shouldn't get their paychecks either.
I have always said that if Congress can't get a budget passed, that nobody in Congress, including all of their staff, all of their
Yeah.
interns, their secretaries, their administrative assistants, should not get a paycheck, nor should they get retroactive pay. Because what's been the what's been the practice in the past is even though you were sat home for 2 weeks and had a 2 week vacation, we're going to pay you anyway. That nonsense has to stop.
Mhm.
And I
Yep.
think Trump is prepared to do that this time. So that's what's going on. By the way, and Trump, I think if they do shut the government down, I think Trump, instead of simply saying stay home, he's going to start actually firing people, um, which may be playing right because he's always wanted to shrink the size of government even more. And you have a perfectly legal excuse to say, well, we have no money, we can't pay you. Your employment with the federal government is terminated, and that's perfectly legal. So, all right. Let's move on to our third mass shooting that you didn't hear about. Now,
Yeah.
you heard about the one in Michigan, right, where the
Yep.
guy drove his truck into the Mormon church.
Yeah, well, and it wasn't a shooting. It was like you said, it was a car or truck driving into the church. So
Well, I think he got out of his car and started shooting at people too, but so I think some people died in the fire, some people died from gunshot. And then you had the one in North Carolina where the guy in his boat pulled up to
Mhm.
the Riverside restaurant and shooting people. And they were both former Marines, and they were white guys. Got a lot of both stories got a lot of play over the
Yeah.
weekend. But guess what? In Eagle Pass, Texas, a guy named of Karan Rashad Jones um, went out of a casino, went to his car, got a gun, and started shooting. Killed two people, wounded six. You didn't hear a word about that shooting, did you? That's a
I
mass
did
shooting,
not.
Benny.
I did not.
The only difference I can say, you want to guess what race Karad Rashad Jones was?
It sounds Middle Eastern.
No, he might have been a
Oh,
practicing Muslim, but he was a 34-year-old black man.
okay.
So my question is, why did the stories involving the two white ex-Marines get national news coverage for
Yeah,
2
interesting.
days? And why did this one not make, and by the way, I did check, I Googled this. It made local news stories. It did not make a single national news story. So my question is, why not? Why did this
Yeah.
third mass shooting not make the national news?
Yeah, interesting.
Never know. All right. Let's move on to Bill Maher, who I swear to you is becoming a conservative. I don't know if he's taking pills, um, but he's talking about uh, the war on Christians in Nigeria. And most people aren't aware of this.
Right. I mean, the fact that this issue has not gotten on people's radar,
Right, no one's talking about it.
it's pretty amazing. If you don't know what's going on in Nigeria, your media sources suck. You are in a bubble. Not and again, I'm not a Christian, but they are systematically
Yep.
killing the Christians in Nigeria. They've killed over 100,000 since 2009. They've burned 18,000 churches. This is so much more. These are their Islamists, Boko Haram. This is so much more of a genocide attempt than what is going on in Gaza. They are literally attempting to wipe out the Christian population of an entire country. Where are the kids protesting this?
Yeah, yes. No one will talk about it, so thank you.
Can you imagine 100,000 Christians killed, 18,000 churches burned to the ground,
Yeah,
and it never makes the news? You didn't hear about that
yeah, I
before.
haven't heard about any of this.
And again, why not? Why not
Yeah, good
is always the
question.
question. Why not? This is how, and he said, if you're not aware of this, he said, your media sources suck.
Yeah.
That was his quote, and he's 100% correct.
Mhm.
Because again, you only hear what the media wants you to hear. All right, and here's a story you probably didn't hear. Well, maybe you did hear about it. Did you hear about the superintendent of schools in Des Moines, Iowa, was
This
arrested
one
by?
I did hear about, and I mean, it sounds like this guy was a phenomenal superintendent. He was very loved by his community and all his employees, staff, students, parents. It sounded like the whole community just loved him, and he was incredible at his job. But you brought up at the beginning of the show about the background check that these things should have been found out during his background check.
Right. So let me give you a little more background. So he entered the U.S. illegally, not on a student visa, illegally from
I thought
Guyana.
he was I thought he was actually here on a student visa, but the student visa expired, is what I had heard.
Well, it said he last entered the country through New York on August 30th. He came back.
Okay, he came back.
He
Okay.
came back on an F1 student visa to attend St. John's University in Queens.
Hmm.
However, he was not legally authorized to work in the U.S. After his employment authorization card expired in 2020.
Hmm.
Then, and this is before he became superintendent of school, he was arrested for possession of a loaded weapon in a vehicle by Des Moines Public Schools after fleeing federal officers. So my question is, the guy had there had been a standard, there had been a final order of removal issued in 2021, and he had a prior weapons possession charge. So how does a guy, first of all, if you're a legal alien, you don't have a social security number. When you get hired, you have to do an I-9 form, right? Proof
Yeah.
of citizenship.
Yeah.
Or so how does a guy with no social security number, a active deportation order, and a felony weapons conviction, how does he get hired as a superintendent
Well,
of,
he could have had a social security number. So he was originally here on a student visa.
you get a
And
taxpayer, no, you get a taxpayer identification number, TIN, not a social security number.
no, you can as a student here on a student visa. So basically the university is sponsoring your they're sponsoring you to be here. You can work in the country at the place who is sponsoring you. So for example, international students at Penn State who are here on a student visa can work for the university. For example, they can work in the dining halls or
Sure,
they can work in the
yeah,
library. Where
right.
they can't work at any of the bars or restaurants downtown because that is not owned by the university. So on a student visa, you can work for the person who is sponsoring you. So as a student, he could have worked at the university that was sponsoring his studies.
Okay.
And with that, you do actually get a social security number.
Are you sure it's a social security number,
Yes,
not a
it is.
tax?
No, it is a social security number. You do get a social security number.
So it's not a TIN and not
No,
a
it's not a
taxpayer
T. It's a
not
social
a taxpayer
security number. Yep.
identification number. Okay.
So he may have obtained that
Okay.
as a student.
Okay. But still, felony weapons
Yeah.
arrest and an active deportation order. And by the way, and
Mhm.
they got him through a headhunting agency, by the way. So,
Which the headhunting agency may not have known that. I mean, they may or may not have done a background check, but the school district should have
right.
absolutely done a background check. I mean, I've been fingerprinted. I've done background both state and federal and had to be fingerprinted by the FBI for my job, and I don't even work with children.
Right. Yeah. So that's, shame on the Des
Shame on the
Moines
school
School
district.
District.
Again, the man seems very well loved. He seems like a fabulous superintendent, but where was their due diligence in doing a background check?
Clearly, it was substandard. Hey, how much time we got?
You got us 10, 12 minutes.
All right, good. I'll sneak this in then. All right. I mentioned there's a city that's suing a gun manufacturer. I'm going to tell you why. It's the city of Seattle has filed suit against, we've all heard of Glock, right? Glock pistols,
Yeah. Mhm.
probably the biggest name in semi-automatic pistols. The city of Seattle has filed suit against Glock and two local area gun stores for manufacturing and selling legal 9mm Glock pistols that criminals have illegally modified to fire in full automatic mode. About 10 years ago, somebody figured out you can do this with any pistol, but since Glocks are so popular, they came up with a little gizmo that after you pull the trigger down, it prevents the what's called the sear, something in the trigger mechanism, from resetting. So once you pull the trigger down and hold it, the gun continues to fire, basically making it into a machine pistol, like a machine gun.
Yeah.
So criminals do that by adding a legal device, and it's called a Glock switch. But you can do this with any pistol, but Glock switches are the hot item if you're a thug, which converts them from semi-automatic to fully automatic, illegally, of course. Now, by the way, among the absurd claims made by the city in its lawsuit is the claim that, quote, a modified Glock can shoot 1,200 rounds a minute. Now, putting aside the fact that the state of Washington only has a 10-round magazine limit, so even if his thug got his hand on some illegal 20-round magazines, not only could he not empty and replace one 20-round magazine every every second, remember, shoot 1,200 rounds a minute, he would have to empty a 20-round magazine every second for 60 seconds. Do you think you could empty? You've shot a pistol, right?
Yeah.
Do you think you could eject and replace a magazine uh, every second for 60 seconds, allowing for 20 shots to go off in the meantime?
Probably not that fast.
Well, and by the way, and this
I mean,
comes
I
from,
can do it pretty fast. These limits they have on, 10 rounds, I think is, as you
right.
know too, is kind of absurd because it literally takes 1 second to drop a clip and slam a new clip in.
Magazine, not a clip. It's a
Sorry, a
magazine.
magazine. It
Okay.
literally takes you 1 second to press that button to drop it out and then slam a new one in.
Okay, but then you've got to allow time for the 20 rounds to empty. So
Yeah,
that
so
may,
these limits I think are ridiculous, but that's a
right.
whole point.
But anyway, but aside from the 1200, aside from the fact that the sheer physical challenge of trying to change out 60 magazines in 60 seconds,
Yeah.
if you look up for any machine guns, military machine guns, after about 300 rounds in 15 seconds, the barrel of the gun will get so hot that the gun would likely seize. Not even military machine guns can shoot 1,200 rounds in a minute without overheating. So no, the gun cannot shoot 1,200 rounds in a minute. But here's the question. So they're suing Glock because somebody's illegally modifying their guns and then using illegally obtained high capacity magazines to turn these illegally modified guns into high capacity machine guns. Why are they suing Glock? If
They should
somebody
be
bought
suing the people who are changing it.
right, if somebody bought a Chevy Malibu and modified it so that it could be driven 150 miles an hour, which is easily done, and that modification resulted in multiple deaths, should Chevrolet be held reliable for those
No, not at
deaths?
all. No.
Well, that's the city of Seattle is suing Glock. I think it'll get thrown out. There is a federal law that protects gun manufacturers from being sued for the deaths. By the way, you can still sue a gun manufacturer if they produce a defective product. Like if you buy a gun and it blows up in your hand, you
Mhm.
can absolutely sue the gun manufacturer for negligence. But when somebody uses your gun illegally, there's a federal law. So I think it's going to get thrown out. But that's the city of Seattle, I think, making a virtue signal. All
Yeah.
right. We talked about lithium, right? A key
Yeah.
component in electric cars and even your
Mhm.
cell phone battery. Right? Cell phone batteries all use lithium battery,
Yeah,
and
and for
and
those that don't know, the United States only has one very small lithium mine, and I believe it's in Nevada, and it's not very large at all.
right, and most of our lithium comes from China, so it's a strategic metal, obviously. And by the way, so guess which country has found a deposit estimated to be 43 million tons of lithium?
I'm gonna say Russia.
Germany.
Oh, okay, good for Germany.
Better Germany than Russia.
Yeah,
So
that I was thinking because I was thinking of the region.
right. So anyway, so that uh, kills China's stranglehold will probably result in a dramatic drop in price because now that China is going to have significant competition in the production and sale of lithium. So that's great news for, any country that uses batteries or any person that uses batteries. I think will come down. All right, let's go on to the latest thing in that's got some people scared. You've been down the highway and you've seen these things, Amber Alert,
Oh yeah.
Amber Alert, we're looking for, Sally Jones, blah, 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 6 years old,
Yeah.
last seen. And then they give you the car, a black Nissan Altima, whatever, license plate,
Yep.
so and so. There are now drones that are equipped with high definition license plate readers, and they communicate back with a ground station where the ground station then processes these images and runs them through a computer where they can scan. So as this drone is hovering over the highway, sending back 100 cars a minute, it's basically running all those license plates through a computer back at the drone's home base. And it's not just one; they can put up over a city. They can put up a dozen, 20 of these drones at every major intersection in the city, and so now some people are scared about that, saying, "Well, I don't want the government to know where I am or where I'm going." What's your
But you know what?
reaction?
I don't know. You see this on TV, and I don't know if this is just crime drama fiction or if this is real. But cities like New York and Chicago already have license plate readers at all their major intersections
Yeah,
and
big
purchasing
big right.
tunnels.
Big cities don't, but
So
you know,
this
but
is just another. This is just another medium at which they're deploying license plate readers because cities already have them. So
yeah, they're big city. But this gives cities like Tampa, Florida, and they can put them over a highway now. Have you ever seen a police car at a median crossover
yeah,
sitting there? Well, what they're doing, by the way, they're on alert. They're looking for somebody. I see them all the time on Interstate 78. You see a cop
yeah.
parked at a crossover, and they're there looking for a wanted suspect. They have a description of a car, and they're parked at the median, median saying, does this car come by? So
Mhm.
that's the latest advancement in technology is drone license plate readers. And
Yeah.
again, they can deploy a dozen of them over a city.
Again, it's just another medium of to deploy this already existing technology that's already in major cities.
It sure is. All right, you know what time it is right now?
Taxpayer relief shot.
And here's why we call them taxpayer relief shots. Here we go.
Somebody's breaking in your house, you're more than welcome to shoot them in Santa Rosa County. We prefer that you do, actually. Hopefully, you'll save the taxpayers money.
Now, when you listen to this one, in addition to this guy who is actively violating a restraining order, I think for the third time, if you listen closely, I think he was arrested like 64 prior times. So one of the questions is, why is this guy still out on the street? So here we go.
Police say a licensed gun holder shot and killed a man trying to break into a West Side apartment this morning. WGN's Courtney Spinelli is live in East Garfield Park with details on what led up to the confrontation. Courtney.
Yeah, good evening. Sources close to the investigation say the man had managed to break a window and was still trying to get inside the apartment when he was shot. His name has not been released as of tonight, but we're told he has a long history of domestic violence and was arrested just last month at this same address.
This is like a shock, to be honest.
Chicago police say it was just before 7 Saturday morning when an attempted break-in turned deadly. The scene unfolding on a balcony behind this apartment building near West Monroe Street and North Homan Avenue in East Garfield Park.
Okay, so part of the crime finished actually inside the apartment? Yeah, 99.
Sources say a 33-year-old man was banging on the back door, threatening to kill a woman and her children inside. She called 911 and a relative who was able to get there quickly. The man continued trying to get in, smashing a bedroom window. Sources say the relative, a 28-year-old woman, fired from inside toward the man on the balcony, hitting him multiple times. The woman, a concealed carry license holder, was taken into custody for questioning.
I honestly didn't hear anything. That's so crazy.
A neighbor says she slept through the shooting, now learning what allegedly happened.
I can only imagine like how her kids were feeling and everything when this was going on. That's really scary.
While the medical examiner's office has not yet released the man's name, sources tell WGN he's no stranger to law enforcement. Chicago arrest records show he's been arrested at least 64 times.
Arrested 60, he's 33 years old, arrested 64 times.
Wow.
Why is he not in jail?
Yeah.
In the city since 2009, at least a dozen of those for domestic battery.
And a dozen arrests for domestic battery.
His convictions include domestic battery, aggravated battery of a peace officer, and violating an order of protection. Court records reveal a long history of domestic violence cases, including one from late August, where he was arrested at the same home on West Monroe.
All right, well, then, so folks, if you have a daughter, a granddaughter, and they're in teach your daughter and teach your female children how to shoot, because if as they grow up, if they get into a bad relationship, remember a restraining order is just a piece of paper. So that's why you should teach your daughters to shoot. Producer Susan, any comment on that? I think you've shot a
No,
gun
I agree
once.
with you.
You've shot a gun once or twice, haven't you?
Yeah.
Okay. So again, that domestic, and as you heard, this guy had violated that restraining order multiple times. So anyway, anything you want to add before we sign off?
Nope.
All right. Well, we crammed a lot in, so I want to thank everybody who listened to this podcast for giving up 30 minutes out of your busy day to listen to me ramble on about the things I find of interest and importance. And I hope you found them as interesting and important as I did. When you hear this tomorrow morning, I believe we will be on a government shutdown. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but I unfortunately think when you listen to this Wednesday morning, October 1st, the government will be partially shut down. And let's see how long this one's going to last. In the meantime, if you want to see some of the materials, including the video of that funeral for the chickens at Trader Joe's, you'll be able to find them on the Jerzee Joe website at jerzeejoe.com, with Jersey being spelled J-E-R as in Robert, Z as in zebra, E-E, J-E-R-Z-E-E, jerzeejoe.com.
Yeah, that one didn't come through so well, so I'm curious to see the video.
Just give producer Susan a day or two to get those story links and video links posted up to the website. But if you'd like me to send you one directly, just send me an email to joe at jerzeejoe.com, and I'll be happy to send you one or more of those story links directly to your email inbox. So just email it to joe at jerzeejoe.com. Just remember to spell Jersey with an R, a Z, and two E's. And with that, producer Susan, anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
Nope.
All right. Well, I'll talk to you next week. All right.
All right.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.